1. Lost Hope Radio.
Don't touch me. I'll beat your brains out.
You believe in miracles? Yes! I mean, you can take a knee and try a 56-yard field goal. This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl. Let's get ready to rumble. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat his children. Go Frazier. Go Frazier. California. The big game over Stanford.
I think that the NFL knows what Randy Moss has done with marijuana, and I think the NFL knows what Randy Moss does with marijuana.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game. Good morning, and thank you for joining me.
Top of the morning, everybody. Those of you already on Facebook Live, the millions listening around the world on Blog Talk Radio, live from Hollywood, California. This is Tough Love, and I am Alistair Conrad. I am telling you right now, I don't feel 100%. As you, those of you on Facebook can see, I'm not. I'm feeling anything but 100. But either way, fun night. That's the reason why I got to hang out with my buddy G, Cinco de Mayo, all that fun stuff. Good times. Yowza. It was late. That's the problem. I just didn't get enough sleep. So after this show, I'm gonna lay down and get some sleep. So anyway, welcome to the show. Happy Sunday fun day to everybody. Just a reminder, next Sunday is Mother's Day. For those of you who need a little bit of a reminder. There's actually, as usual, a lot to get to. And I'm just trying to figure out what I should start off with. Do we just start off with LeBron? And let me just say this. Being the second best player of all time isn't a bad thing. I am getting to, and I love what he did. He's so amazing. LeBron is so amazing, but he's not Jordan. All right? I mean, the Twitterverse and everybody just is freaking out last night after he hit the game winner, which kudos, man. It's kudos. Good job. You know, really tough shot. You know, and seals it. They're up 3-0 in Toronto, who, by the way, is, I mean, they're like the new Clippers in the playoffs with Chris Paul. It's like they win the President's Trophy every year, and then they fail. So getting past Toronto, I'm not surprised. LeBron getting to what is probably going to be his 8th straight finals. That is so good, but he hasn't won all of them. Michael won all 6, and granted, he got beat up until he got there. The Pistons, in his late 80s, you know, I mean, he needed pieces around him, blah, blah, blah. But Jordan is just Jordan. You just say the name, Jordan. And LeBron, LeBron's great, but like I say, there's nothing wrong with being number 2. And on top of it, if you want to compare anything, it's almost too difficult because they're different players. You know, like, you got Messi and Ronaldo in soccer, and, you know, there's an argument to be made for each of them. Messi reminds me of LeBron, more of an all-round player, whereas Ronaldo, it's just, he scores. It's all he does. You know, I mean, that's kind of Jordan and LeBron, but it's just, Jordan was 6-0. LeBron wasn't. I will say this. Jordan wasn't able to bring his teams to the championship that weren't good enough to get there outside of him. But as with LeBron's done it twice. The first time I think it was against the Heat in 07 or 08. They lost. And then a couple years back when the first series they lost to the Warriors. It was LeBron and nobody else. Jordan never did that. But then again, the competition, having to get through the Pistons back in Jordan's day, and Rodman and Isaiah and Lambeer and Joe Dumars and the microwave Vinny Johnson. I mean, there was just so many. The Pistons were so good. And it was just difficult for Jordan by himself. Whereas the East has been terrible for 10 years, maybe more, actually. And so for LeBron to get there, yeah, it's great, but it's still a lot easier than it was for Jordan to get there. And then once Jordan finally broke through and got there, he won 6 straight. So, like I say, it's not a bad thing to be the second greatest player ever. Think about that. That's pretty awesome. But to sit there and say he's, better than Jordan, I'm sorry. I can't buy it. I will never buy it. I think that's just obvious. It's just obvious. But they are up 3-0 on Toronto, looking to possibly play the Celtics. Dude, what? How? And okay, so here's another second best in the league. Brad Stevens, a lot of people want to say, oh, he's the best coach in the league. He's the best coach in the league for the Celtics. He's the second best, possibly. Nobody's better than Greg Popovich, all right? It's like saying Sean McVay of the Rams is better coach than Bill Belichick. Just everybody stop being so reactionary, and just following the rhetoric and just the mainstream answer to things. Just think about this stuff for a second. Brad Stevens is insane. What he is doing with Boston is ridiculous. Without Kyrie, without Gordon Hayward, a couple of second-year guys and just a whatever. Brad Stevens is incredible. He's not Greg Popovich. Let's just everybody. Being second best, again, in some respects, is phenomenal. It's epic to be Brad Stevens and as good as he is. And who knows? Maybe 10, 15 years from now, we'll have this conversation after Brad Stevens has been to numerous finals and wins numerous finals. Then maybe we can have this conversation. But right now, what he's doing is remarkable with what he has around him. I will say this, and I don't know how far back I would have to go. I don't know when Terry Rozier got drafted, but I know for a fact in my show that week of or a couple weeks after the draft, probably the week of, I called it out. Terry Rozier at Louisville was insane and led them to a championship. Terry Rozier is a lot like Kemba Walker and what Kemba did in college with UConn and getting through that Big East tournament in, one of the greatest runs ever, and then got obviously to the tournament, won the final. That's what Terry Rozier reminds me of right now. Terry Rozier just reminds me of Kemba. He just isn't getting the same comparison talk. I mean, Kemba, obviously first-round pick and, is doing really, really well. Terry Rozier just hasn't had a chance, and he won't either once Kyrie comes back next year. And what happens then, I guess we're just going to see. But I'm not surprised, and I don't think anybody should be. Terry Rozier was really, really good at Louisville, and Boston and Danny Ainge, because they just can't seem to miss in the draft, got him. And what a revelation this kid is. And next year it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. Is he going to want to play on, and be a starter somewhere, which is 100% understandable. But he's just that good. He's that good. There's so many teams out there in need of a point, and Boston could probably get something decent in return, maybe a first rounder or whatever. But I have a feeling after this year, he's going to want to go and test the market, and I don't know what his contract is like, but maybe he wants to be traded to a team that he contends with. Could be like the whole Nick Foles, Carson Wentz situation too that Philadelphia had. Kyrie goes down, and I'm not saying Terry Rozier is going to lead him to a championship, although what they're doing right now, I don't think they're getting past the Cavs in the finals, conference finals. But what they're doing, I wouldn't be surprised because Brad Stevens is such a good coach. But I'm telling you, Terry Rozier, golly, that kid's really good. So the Celtics and Cavs, both up 3-0, look to be obviously heading towards a matchup. Think about if the Celtics had Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, which, by the way, they're going to next year and for the foreseeable future. So the Celtics are going to be really, really good for a long time. LeBron is probably playing as good, if not better, than he ever has. That's incredible when you think he's in his 15th year. I mean, it really is. It's just shocking to think, right? So, kudos to LeBron. He's just not Jordan. Today's games, Golden State, New Orleans, Houston, Utah. I want, as cool as it is to see the Pelicans, win the other night, Utah take game 2, just got swept the other night in Utah. It's like the Patriots of '85. They go through the playoffs as a wild card. They win 3 games on the road and, upset some really good teams on the way there to get to the Super Bowl, to play the '85 Bears. And granted, maybe nobody would have won that Super Bowl against them, and, more than likely not. But, it was as much of a good story as it was for the Patriots to get there. You knew they were going to get the shit kicked out of them. And as much as I want, like a Utah or New Orleans to go through, for the, good feel-good story, I want so badly to see Golden State and Houston. Because throughout the year, obviously Golden State had to play with some injuries. Finished with the second best record, even so. But Houston and James Harden and Chris Paul have been head and shoulders above everybody. James Harden is ridiculous. And that is the matchup that everybody wants to see. When I was growing up, and that could be the de facto NBA championship, because when I was growing up in the, let's just say early 90s, my high school times, the 49ers and the Cowboys were basically meeting for, I say, 5 straight years or something like that in the NFC Championship game. And that was pretty much the de facto Super Bowl. Whereas now, as Cleveland, who knows? Boston, who knows? Who knows? But the way Houston themselves are playing, you would expect them to just, win the championship. But I just want to see Golden State, Houston. Not saying that's the de facto finals, because you never know with LeBron or Boston. But just to see the pace of Golden State and Houston, just to see, the best of the best play, it would just be intriguing. It would be really, really fun basketball to watch. Bob wanted me to mention in that game last night, and it's true, it's so funny he mentioned that. Great minds think alike. But I'm sitting there watching the highlight of LeBron's game winner, and it's funny because he gets the inbounds. And he's a freight train at 6'8". I get it. But I think it was Kyle Lowry on him, which is ridiculously dumb. But they just kind of let him drive, if you will, coast to coast. The problem is, I just don't understand, why the hell everybody's playing man defense when LeBron's just going to take it. 1% chance he dishes if, 3 guys come over and converge on him. But more than likely, LeBron is going to take it. So why, with 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 2, why is everybody playing man and off, why is there not double and triple teaming on LeBron happening? Make him dish it up and have somebody else get the game winner. You're going to let LeBron drive. It's the same thing, Bob, that I was seeing. And it's just funny that you mentioned it. But think about that. Like, what the hell are they doing? But that's why Toronto is Toronto. Anyway, I was... You know how stuff just pops in your head all the time. I just automatically just thought of Cleveland Browns and Alonzo Highsmith, their VP of operations or whatever, how he is saying he was at an airport and it ran into the UCLA volleyball team and something about like, oh, you should ask his girlfriend, Josh Rosen's girlfriend, about how he is. And Alonzo Highsmith just like left it at that. He was like, I just didn't like him because of it. And that's why Cleveland's going to be Cleveland, just like Toronto is going to be Toronto. That's how I wrap that together. Anyway, so that's basketball. Interesting as it is. A couple things I want to get to. Shout out to Jason Witten. I don't know if I heard this right or not. He retired tight end Dallas. Arguably first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't know if I heard this right or not, and I should possibly look it up. But is Jason Witten top 5 in catches all time? I mean, think about that. If that's true, that's incredible. And granted, he's played for a long time, but even so, he's a tight end. Like, that's more than, I think, Tony Gonzalez. Hold on a sec. All-time receptions leaders, NFL. See if they'll throw it up real quick. Okay, so Tony Gonzalez is number 2. Larry Fitzgerald, 3. Yeah, Witten is 4. Jason Witten is number 4 in total receptions. I mean, and the guy next closest after that is Anquan Bolden, and I don't think he's playing anymore. So he is, he's set in that. Larry Fitzgerald has another good year. He might creep up past Tony G. Jerry Rice up there. Jesus, Jerry. It's insane. So anyway, shout out to Jason Witten. That's awesome. Last night, Triple G in a boxing match was supposed to have the rematch last night with Canelo Alvarez. Obviously, those of you in the know, Canelo tested positive twice for, a steroid, supposedly that they said was in the tainted meat, which by, argument's sake is true. What's happening down there, I don't necessarily think it pertains to Canelo. And who knows, maybe it does. All I know is he came up hot on a piss test, and I couldn't be more happy, as I've talked about before. You know what? Just don't get busted. And this is greed, because after the first fight, which Triple G obviously won, not even close, and to be a draw, just so they could set up this second money grab and insult all the intelligence of every smart boxing fan and common sense person out there. Good. I'm glad it doesn't. Will Triple G continue to, not give the rematch to Canelo? I doubt it. The money is just too great. It's just too great to pass up. As unfortunate as it is, the fans outside of me, because like I've said, a million times before, I'm not watching it. I promise you, I will not watch the Canelo Triple G rematch, because I've just never been insulted sports-wise maybe that much. A 118-110 card by that hoe, I can't deal with that type of slap in the face. And I know why. That's the problem. It's a money grab. They wanted a second fight. They wanted it on Cinco de Mayo weekend, so it's just out of control in the money. And then a suspension last 6 months, retroactive to February, so they're going to be able to fight on Mexican Independence Day weekend like they did last year. So, either way, boxing and them win, and the fans get insulted, and they, just have to sit through another fight, and who knows, maybe Canelo will win that fight, and then, just so they can have a trilogy fight and a rubber match and blah, blah, blah. I'm over it. I'm just over it. Triple G kicked the shit out of him the first time, and that's it. Tiger Woods, I think it's the Players, maybe? No, PGA? I can't remember. Either way, they're at Quail Hollow, and Tiger's not doing great. Jason Day is in the lead to go back. All I want to say is with Tiger, as badly as I want him to win, he doesn't even have to win. I can't imagine, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can't imagine how the numbers are up, how massive the numbers are up just because Tiger is back. He doesn't even need to win. All he needs to do is be on in a tournament, and automatically viewership goes through the roof and interest is through the roof. And so what he does for the game of golf is shocking. Should be a really, interesting final round. Tiger actually is already teed off, but what he does, and the only reason I bring it up is because people sitting there, oh, he hasn't won anything. He doesn't need to. I mean, trust me, for himself, nobody wants to win more than Tiger. And second, nobody wants him to win more than him than me, because I just love him. But he doesn't have to. He makes such an amazing impact on the game, and I love watching him. So anyway, hopefully he can have a good final round. I'll get to the NHL playoffs in a sec for those who give a shit. But first, I just want to talk about Matt Ryan and getting his $100 million guaranteed this past week, which kudos to him. That's great. But it has different layers to it. I think the NFL, and trust me, I'm, as you guys know, I'm one of the biggest fans, there are. But I think it's a slippery slope. They're treading lightly, as Walter White so eloquently said. But I've made the argument all the time for both sides. The only reason I side with the NFL when it comes to, or I guess I should say front office, when it comes to guaranteed contracts is because injury is just a possibility on each and every play. Kiki, love you. And, I get it. From a player's perspective, that's their argument. The players say, we could be injured on any play, so, we need the security financially just in case. But the flip side is also true for an owner. The owner of a football team is thinking, I could lose this guy on any given play, so why would I guarantee him money, especially when there's a salary cap? Let's just say Matt Ryan, who you just gave $100 million to guaranteed, gets career-ending injury. You are now on the hook for $100 million to give this guy. And on top of it, as with what you all saw with the Vikings, you end up paying Sam Bradford a ton of money. He gets hurt, and you're on the hook for it. You're on the hook for a lot of money. And then you have to bring in another guy and draft somebody. And, there's just so much that goes into it via injury. So, yes, the players, I get your argument. Of course I get it, because you want that financial security in case something catastrophic and career-ending happens. But this is a business. You are replaceable. And the owners know this. And so why would they give guaranteed money only to strap them financially down the road? It doesn't make sense. I'm all about getting your money, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. The second part of this is the Tom Brady model that nobody follows. Peyton Manning, we saw it throughout the 2000s. Peyton Manning, Allison, good morning, beautiful. Peyton Manning handicapped the Colts throughout his whole career because he made so much money and they could only put a great offense around him, which obviously they did really well, but the defense was terrible, and it was for his whole duration there. They luckily had to play a shitty Bears team in the Super Bowl and almost didn't win that. For Peyton to ever have an opportunity. Obviously with Denver that was different because it wasn't about Peyton and his money. All I'm saying is Tom Brady has a blueprint of, let me take less. I will be a team player, being that we are playing a team sport and winning is above my money, and I get it. Would you rather have $100 million than $80 million? Of course. But are you going to, like, thank you, sweetie. Are you going to handicap your team just so you can be greedy and have that extra 20 mil? I think people are skewed in the sense of how much money that actually is. They talk about, oh, setting my family up for life. $80 million? That's not just your family, bud. That's generational money, unless you're an idiot and go buy jets and you know, islands or Hawaii or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, that you win in the NFL by being able to have players across the board, both sides of the football, and that's just the way it is. So Peyton Manning, Matt Ryan, they are going to handicap their team. And we'll see in Minnesota with Kirk Cousins what that does to the rest of the team. Hopefully, you know what, it works out the way I want it to and makes them a little bit more shrewd. And so they look at Trey Waynes, they look at Anthony Barr, they're like, no, we can't afford him and it's not worth it. But at the same time, you are going to end up eventually taking away from the rest of, you know, some other aspects of your team. And again, like I say, if you are an Atlanta Falcon fan right now, and the Vikings went through it a couple years back with Bradford, if you pay him $100 million and he gets hurt and you're a fan, and Matt Ryan goes down the first game forever, he's not coming back, and you got $100 million guaranteed tied up in it, and I'm not including injury. You know, like, I don't know how, is there an injury fund if something like that happens to where you can get off the hook? Let's say you can't, and you're on the hook for $100 million. And for 5 years, you're on the hook for $100 million. You don't have his ability, you don't have his presence anymore. So now you not only have to draft a new quarterback, spend a draft choice on that, but you also probably have to go out and pay another quarterback to, you know what I'm saying? So all of a sudden, not only do you have $100 million wrapped up in a guy who's never coming back, but now you're stretched so thin and having to pay someone else to come in and do that. And so as a fan, your team is ridiculously thin across the board because of this. So I think, you know, I mean, I get the player's perspective. I just think it's such a, oh man, it's a slippery slope. And I'm for the owners on this. I am, because as a fan, I want my team to be able to compete year in and year out. And if you have things like this happening, we are going to see very quickly something bad is going to happen to one of these guys who gets all the guaranteed money. It's just the law of averages. Football is a violent sport. And in one of these contracts, the player is going to get hurt and put their team in a financial bind. And next thing you know, it's just going to be, you know, unhappy fans because their quarterback Atlanta went down and blah, blah, blah. 90 seconds left. So that's how I feel about that. NHL, last 90 seconds. Throughout the season, I'm not the biggest hockey guy. You guys know that from listening to this show. It's in the middle of like football season for the most part. But NHL playoff hockey is ridiculous. The intensity ramps up so much, it's shocking. And it's so fun to watch. And I'm telling you right now, it is incredible.
60 seconds.
Because there's arguably 6 teams right now that are really like legitimate cup contenders, and quite honestly, you could make a case for all 8. But I mean, Washington and Pittsburgh, Winnipeg, Nashville, both of those series have been absolutely epic right now. Boston and Tampa Bay. Boston comes in like Portland Trailblazers did to the NBA playoffs, and all of a sudden they get swept by the Pelicans. Boston wins, the first one over Toronto in an epic 7-game series, and then next thing you know, they're going in on a high note against Tampa, and Tampa has steamrolled them 3-1. And today it's at Tampa to close that out. It's just, I mean, Vegas, San Jose.
10
It's just so fun.
seconds.
10 seconds, Blog Talk. I'm out. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you next Sunday. Drive fast. Take chances. Someday, fun day in full effect. The rest of you, hold on a sec. Here's the chime.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Goodbye. I'm not going the extra 15 today. I'm beat up. But it is just it's so fun to watch the NHL hockey playoffs. It just is. So hopefully everybody does that and has fun. I am going to get some rest. As you can see it in my eyes, I'm beat. I'm so beat. But either way, hope you guys have a great Sunday, fun day. Watch some hockey. Watch some basketball. LeBron's not the best. Second best is not a bad thing. It's the first loser, but it's not a bad thing. So have a great one. Love you guys. And I will see you next Sunday. Drive fast. Take chances. See ya.